Wolfkeen947, aka Wolfkeen, and welcome to another edition of Wolfkeens Thoughts. Now today on Wolfkeens Thoughts, I'm going to be talking about, well, E3. E3 just passed not that long ago, and I wanted to give my thoughts on what do I think about E3 2016 this year. Now, just before anybody wonders, this isn't really a review of per se E3 or something of that nature. I more or less just want to talk about some of the more standout moments and talk about what I really thought about some of the games and otherwise that they showed off, because in my opinion, E3 this year was, well, disappointing to say the least. The reason why I say it was disappointing was because it really felt like none of the companies that came here this year, with the exception of Sony and Microsoft and somewhat Nintendo, it feels like none of the companies came in here with all guns. It felt like that they came with a tank, but no shells inside the tank. Wrap your head around that analogy. So, enough beating around the bush. I'm going to be rounding off my thoughts on E3 with each of the press conferences. And I'm not really going to spend too much time talking about each one, as I am just going to round it up and then talk about some of the more standout moments between each one. First to start off with is EA. And the best way I could describe EA is sports! 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 Now, before someone jumps down my throat on that one, I know a lot of people are into sports games. I am honestly not in the sports games. And my problem with EA is that they spend a lot of their time, which they did this E3 as well, on the sports games. And the few games that they did show off, unfortunately, weren't very standoff. There were only two that they showed off that were very interesting to look at, which were FE, F-E, as I believe it's pronounced, and Battlefield 1. FE looks like a very interesting game, and honestly looks like something I really need to check out in some form or fashion. While Battlefield 1, I'm going to say this right now, as much as I liked Battlefield, the Battlefield series, I was burned by 4 and I was burned by Hardline. So when it comes to Battlefield 1, I'm very standoffish towards it right now. It's like, if it does well, I'll buy it, but I'm going to wait until, wait and see what other people say about Battlefield 1. So when it comes to EA, I feel as though they were very disappointing, but they were not the worst conference. And they had a couple of standout games, unlike the next press conference I'm about to talk about. Next one is Bethesda, and I had high hopes for Bethesda after last year's press conference, especially with how many bombs they were dropping last year. This year did not feel like the case, to be honest. In this press conference, they showed off some Fallout 4 DLC, which does make me a little upset that this is going to be the last batch of DLC. 6 DLC, 2 of which are for workshop. 2 are very small story DLC, and the last 2 are large DLC. It's like, for $50, you could get a lot more from a different game, and that's not a very good thing for Bethesda to show off. I'm pretty sure you can get more from, like, The Witcher or something of that line. Hell, you could get more from that money from a previous Bethesda game. So I didn't like the fact that the Fallout 4 DLC were kind of one of the bigger moments. I mean, I liked it, but I didn't like the fact that it was a big moment for Bethesda, along with the Skyrim remaster. Once again, this is one of those, okay, that's cool, but I don't really care too much moments. Don't get it twisted. I love Skyrim, and I will buy Skyrim Remastered, but I want something else in this conference besides DLC and remasters. Luckily, Bethesda delivered when they showed off Dishonored 2 and actually gave us some gameplay for Dishonored 2. The fact that you can play as either Corvo or Emily Caldwin, where each character has their own unique abilities, showed us gameplay for both these characters, and even showed us how much wider the world actually is, which is a really cool thing. And then, of course, they showed us the new Quake game, which right now we have no information for that. I understand people being very standoffish towards it because there's no information, just a cinematic trailer, and they say that they're going to give us more at QuakeCon. So when it comes to Bethesda, I feel as though they dropped the ball massively this year, and I feel as though that they should have given us more information and more standout moments than what they gave us this time around. Luckily, it wasn't bad. The conference was okay, but very disappointing. Then we have Microsoft, which I'm going to say this right now, Microsoft's press conference did improve. I think they were more of the standout moments, but there was only one game that I really cared about from them, and that was Scalebound. Scalebound! Holy crap, does that game look like fun! It feels like that they mixed elements from, say, like Panzer Dragoon, with Final Fantasy, with something along the lines of Bayonetta, while also combining it with Monster Hunter. Seriously, the scale of Scalebound, no pun intended, is impressively cool, and if this game really is an online co-op game, or hell, I would love some split-screen co-op with a game like that, that's a game I'm going to be dumping a lot of time into, assuming I get an Xbox One. Speaking of which, they've announced this Xbox One Slim as well as the Project Scorpio, which is going to be a 4K Xbox One. Now these I don't care too much about because, well, I don't have a 4K TV. I'm still pretty behind on the times when it comes to equipment, but the Xbox One Slim is one that I am interested in, especially the fact that they're actually releasing an Xbox One version with a 2TB hard drive. So I'll say that with Microsoft, they definitely had a few standout moments, but a lot of the other moments, like one of them that I remember was Gears 4, they weren't as stand-up-ish as some of the other stuff that I talked about, but it was enough that I kind of like their conference a lot more than I did EA and Bethesda, which is very sad considering how much I love Bethesda. Then we have Ubisoft, which in my opinion was the worst conference of this year, barring another, because literally it was boring. Their conference was so boring. They just kept going with like this PR talk, and I believe they had like this worst, I forgot her name, but I believe she was the worst person for Ubi to like be an announcer for, and otherwise it was the worst. I wish they didn't use a person like this. And the thing is with Ubi, they showed off a lot of games that I don't even think people care about. There were only 2 that I cared about, which was the new South Park game called South Park: The Fractured But Whole, and then finally For Honor. South Park I don't care too much about, but everybody knows I've been wanting to check out the Stick of Truth, so I may actually play the Stick of Truth just so I can play the Fractured Butthole, because it looks like that they've taken more of the RPG elements from the Stick of Truth and improved it. And as for Honor, it looks like what Chivalry was trying to be, at least in some cases. A one-for-one, like, medieval combat simulator, but with a more strategic style behind it. Because right now, if you were to look up Chivalry videos, it's mainly just people going around doing like helicopter spins and attacking like this, like, something like that. Sorry if I made myself dizzy on that one. That's pretty much Chivalry in a nutshell, unfortunately. But for Honor, they actually have like standoff natures and otherwise, which is kind of cool. And I like its combat system. I think it's going to be a very fun game, especially for competitive PvP. So, Ubisoft, I'll give them props for having at least 2 standout games, but the rest of their conference was boring. And it was long, too, so that doesn't exactly bode well. Finally, we have Sony, and holy crap! How do you remain so consistent for a second year in a row? Sony started off with like this orchestra at the very beginning, started hitting like bomb after bomb, a brand new God of War game, Days Gone, Horizon Zero Dawn, Death Stranding. It's like they dropped so many different games on us during this entire conference. Most of them I am so interested in, while others I may not care, but I know a lot of people are interested in. God of War is one of them that I really need to try to get back into, and the new God of War looks really cool. Days Gone, a lot of people say it looks like a generic zombie shooter, but I want to give it a chance before I just write it off as such. Horizon Zero Dawn, damn it, I wish I remembered what the game was. I'm just working off of memory right now, unfortunately, but I'll probably put the gameplay or something around here. And then Death Stranding, which was pretty much Kojima's little project with Norman Reedus. I am so freaking glad to see Kojima working with Norman Reedus again, and actually see a game that they're going to be making together with the newly established Kojima Productions. What can I say? I really think Sony knocked it out the park this year when it came to E3 once again. Now, I know some people are probably going to ask me, what about the PC and the Nintendo stuff? The PC conference was boring, and it was 3 hours long! Like, seriously, I'm not going to stay for 3 hours just to watch people talk about specs and only show us trailers every so often. No thank you. And when it comes to Nintendo, I don't count them because they only really came at us with a treehouse and only gave us 2 actual games. The new RPG IP, which I didn't get a chance to look at, and the new Legend of Zelda game, which, okay, I will admit it looks freaking hype. It looks like that they combined Monster Hunter with a sort of feel of Shadow of the Colossus, while still having this sort of Legend of Zelda feel, mixing together, what was it? It was Skyward Sword and Wind Waker. So I'll definitely give Nintendo that. They have my attention with the new Legend of Zelda game. I definitely want to play it if it comes out for the NX. But we'll have to see as time progresses. So all in all, to pretty much summarize my E3 thoughts, there were a couple of standout games, especially from Sony and otherwise, but I really feel as though this year the conference was just a slog. Like a serious slog. I feel as though that we got a lot of games but not enough information, and a bunch of the games that we did get, nobody really cares for. Though I will give props where props is due. A lot of them are talking about VR, like that Star Trek VR game, and otherwise using the HTC Vive, the Oculus, the Project Morpheus, the HoloGens. It definitely seems like VR was one of the bigger things during that entire thing, and I'm all for it. I'm really all for the VR thing, but I feel as though that they should have given us much better stuff this year. It really felt like, as I said at the beginning of the video, it felt like they brought tanks, but no shells for the tanks. That's kind of how I felt with E3 as a whole. So all in all, my final thoughts on E3, it was okay, but it was very disappointing compared to last year. And all I hope is that some of these games that I talked about are as good as they brought them up to be during E3. So here's hoping for the future, guys, and here's hoping our wallets don't get raped too badly during Broketober. So with that said, thank you everybody for watching this edition of Wolfkeens Thoughts. I'm very sorry that I'm very lacking in content and otherwise, and I've explained my reasons for that multiple times, so I won't explain it here, but I will promise that new videos are coming in the future, including new Wolfkeens Thoughts, Wolfkeen Talks, Let's Plays, and otherwise. Just be patient with me. I'll have the content going in the near future, and, you know, we'll see where it goes from there. So until next time, I'm Keenan47, aka Wolfkeen. Hope you enjoyed, and until next time, guys, take care. Oops. I forgot to pull up the notes for my video. Great way to start a video. Let's get recording. Wait, I forgot to pull up the notes.